Elizabeth Porter. After 20 years working as a lawyer with families, abuse, and mental health, I'm done ignoring the patterns. It's time for hard conversations that build awareness, create compassion, and change lives. Welcome to Law and Porter.
The day that life support was turned off, I wanted them to see him one more time. I just wanted us to be a family of 5. And even at that time, I couldn't say, Annalie and John Brett, your dad is not going to make it. We just told them that we wanted them to come see their dad. Jason and I started dating as juniors in high school. We planned out our whole life. We, like high school sweethearts do, we planned names of our children, and we were going to do this and we were going to do that. And then all of that was no more. Why would a loving God allow this in your life? It was like at the same time I was hearing God saying, Stephanie, just trust me.
So, Stephanie, thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Absolutely.
I know everyone locally knows who you are, but your story is very powerful. And I'm hoping that we can reach a lot of people and sort of demystify grief and being a young widow. Mm-hmm. So, just tell me a little bit about, so you married your high school sweetheart.
Yes.
And y'all were happily married for 10 years?
We were married, in 1998, in February of 98. Both had finished at Southern Miss and got married right after we graduated. And he was actually in nurse anesthesia school.
That's right.
Down in Naples, Florida. We had been down there about 2 years when he got sick in January of 2008.
So y'all had, in January 2008, he was diagnosed with leukemia?
Correct. So we had lived down there for 2.5 years. He was about to graduate in May of 2008 when, right before Christmas, he just started with some just flu-like symptoms. We thought just battling the flu. And so took a round of antibiotics, all the things that they thought it could be. And then when he didn't improve right after the first of the year is when we got the leukemia diagnosis. At that time, we had Annalie, who was 6, and we had John Brent, who was 3. And I was 6 months pregnant with Allie at the time that we found out of his diagnosis. So because of all of our family being back in Hattiesburg, we felt like it was probably a better idea to come to Hattiesburg to do his treatment rather than have everybody try to come help us down there. Plus, having local doctors that we knew well, it was just a better situation for us to come back. So we came back to Hattiesburg for him to go through treatment. And he went through, he was diagnosed January the 9th. And he died on July the 12th of that year. So 6 months. And in the middle of all that, baby Allie was born. We called her baby Allie for so long. In February of that year, Allie was born. So it was a whirlwind of 6 months, truly.
How, as the partner to someone receiving a diagnosis like that, how do you process your grief and then also support that person in theirs?
Yes. Well, what was really crazy, and I don't know if a lot of people know this part of the story, but before he got sick, when he was just going through what we thought was the flu, I had this inclination, I don't know, just the Lord preparing me for what was about to come. I just knew that it was not going to be good. And I even spoke of it verbally to a few friends. And I was like, I don't think this is what they're saying. I think this is a lot worse than what they think it is. And so I was already battling in my mind, like, what if this is not just the flu? What if this is something major? But I couldn't do that with him because he was, like, as the provider of our family and the leader of our family, I didn't need to put that on him. So I kind of carried that myself. I really went through one night particular before the official diagnosis, just a battle I really felt like it was just a battle between Satan and the Lord. And I was like in the middle of it, of Satan just saying things like to me, like, why would a loving God allow this in your life? Why would someone that you have served your whole life, you're pregnant with your third child, why would he allow that? And it was like at the same time I was hearing God saying, Stephanie, just trust me. Just trust me. Just trust that I love you with an everlasting love, and I'm never going to leave you, and I'm never going to forsake you. And I literally, this happened over night, like at midnight to about 4 a.m, back and forth in my mind, just all of these thoughts. And I literally sat up and just said, God, I trust you. And
Out loud?
Out loud.
Yep.
I like spoke it. Like I had to, it was like I had to end this. And that 4 or 5 hours later is when Dr. Bellari, Noggin Bellari, oncologist that we were seeing here in Hattiesburg, said the words, Jason, you have acute myelogenous leukemia. And so at that moment, it was like, okay, God, I'm still trusting you. I don't understand it and I don't like what I'm hearing, but I can trust that you love me, you love Jason, you love our family, and you're not going to leave us and you're not going to forsake us at this time. So it was hard though. It was really hard.
So you were able to get that sense of peace a little bit ahead.
Right.
How was that for Jason receiving that news?
For him, I think he knew, like after a few months we were able to talk about leading up. I think he knew also, but just wasn't able to verbalize it.
He needed to keep his head in the sand a little while longer. Right.
Honestly, he was kind of like that through the whole 6 months of his treatment. No shocker here. For those that know me, I'm kind of more verbal. Opposites attract. He was much more introverted and more quiet. And so during the whole 6 months of, he was much more able to just kind of keep it in and deal with it, and allow me to help him walk through some of that. Matter of fact, I share this. We had one conversation in that 6 month period, of what if I don't make it? He just, even though he was a medical person, he was studying to become a nurse anesthetist. He had worked 2 years in critical care in ICU at Force General. I mean, he was the medical person, but when it came to him, it was like he just kind of, the doctors would come in and talk and he would like shut down. He would just kind of go and I would be the person that would like listen and ask all the questions, and he would just kind of just be taking it in, not, but I just think that was just a coping mechanism for him. I think that was how he coped. But we had one conversation one night of, okay, if the Lord doesn't choose to heal me, are you going to be okay? Was the question. And of course I was like, yes. I mean, but I was like, no, you can't say that. Like you can't, we believe God can heal you. We know he is faithful and he is Jehovah Rapha. He is our healer. He is going to heal you. And he was like, yes, but what if it's not? I need to know that you're going to be okay. And of course I was like, of course I'm going to be okay. Of course I'm going to be okay. And then that was it. We never discussed it.
So y'all didn't have any of the practical conversations while he was in treatment?
No. Like he just didn't want to talk about it. Like he just needed to be able to take the chemo and deal with all the side effects and not have to deal with the reality of what we were walking through.
And that's partnership, right?
Absolutely.
And you allowed him to do that.
Right.
And were willing to carry that load.
Right.
But then when it came, did you mentally, because you were doing kind of the mental work of that, were you mentally preparing or planning anything?
Not like for, mostly just mentally like getting through each day. Because I don't know, with leukemia, there's it's not like he was having to be secluded so much. He couldn't be around other people because his immune system, the chemo would totally take him to zero. So he couldn't even be around our kids. And so it was a balancing act of me wanting to be with the kids at night and and then be with him during the day. And like, it was just a balancing act of us just both trying to survive.
Pay bills.
Right. And so I literally, I couldn't work because I was having a baby in the middle of all of that. He obviously wasn't even able to finish school. But I think it was just like, okay, Lord, just help us get, when they say his grace is enough for each day. It truly, daily bread, manna for each day is really all we could do. And so I couldn't really think about the future a whole lot if he didn't make it, because I just literally needed to see that I could get to 5:00 and then I could get to 9:00.
Yeah.
And,
maybe not even a day at a time.
Yeah. Just like get to lunch and then, and so I think that was the only way. And then when it became obvious, interestingly, he was not, the leukemia is not what ultimately took his life. Because of the chemo, he got pneumonia. And he was sick with that for several weeks, went into cardiac arrest from the pneumonia, and then was without oxygen because of the cardiac arrest for about 6 or 7 minutes en route to the hospital. And so that is then he lived about 3 days after that without any brain activity. And so it was during that time, I think, is when I realized, okay, he's probably not going to make it. So how am I going to make it now?
Yeah.
And I certainly wasn't that I didn't ever doubt during that time, those 3 days, that the Lord couldn't heal him.
Sure.
It was more of a reality of he's probably not going to choose to heal him at this time. Yeah. Could he? Absolutely. Right. Was he? I just had this feeling that this was probably how it was going to end.
And I think it's hard, and I've not been in your shoes, or even had someone where I'm praying for healing while trying to accept medical realities. But to say to distinguish the two, God can, God may not.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't mean God's not good.
Absolutely.
And so the part that I hate, but then how do you prepare your children for that?
Right. They were so young at that time, 6 and 3, and Allie was 5 months old. They had no idea other than their daddy was really sick and he was in the hospital and they couldn't see him. The day that life support was turned off, I wanted them to see him one more time. I just wanted us to be a family of 5, even though it's not ideal situation to bring children in the hospital, but I so badly wanted that. So we had all kind of friends caring for them. I asked them to bring them to the hospital. And even at that time, I couldn't say, Annalie and John Brett, your dad is not going to make it. We just told them that we wanted them to come see their dad. And even though we didn't verbalize, they kind of knew. I think Annalie, John Brent was 3-year-old.
Right.
He had that day he showed up, my friend was keeping him, and he had rain boots on, and they were frog rain boots. And I remember him walking in the hospital, and I was like, what does he have on his feet? It wasn't even raining outside. But I think I needed that moment. Yep. But anyway, and then Allie, of course, being just a baby, we all just sat in the hospital room, and I asked everyone else to leave so it could just be the 5 of us. And they just sat there, and, I held them, and we just hugged him and loved on him as much as we could in that few minutes. Yeah. It was a few minutes. And then they left, and then he died probably 5 or 6 hours later that night. And at that moment that he drew his last breath, I just wanted my kids right then. I just wanted to be with them. And so I left the hospital. It was about 10:45 that night, and went to get them, woke them up, Annalie, and I'd let John Brent and Allie sleep. But I needed to be with them. And so I told her that night, that that Jason had gone to be with Jesus and that we would be with him again one day. And I basically just, said, the Lord's going to be with us. He's going to be faithful. And I am so grateful I had grandparents, grandfathers, and brother and brother-in-law, and so many men that were going to step into their life. Yep. And to them, that right there was a gift from God, just to have all of these people that were going to love them and support them. And that's really all they needed to know right then, So that's kind of what I shared with them that night.
Did being with them, I guess, heals a little piece of you?
Yeah. Well, I think too, because that was their dad. That was Jason.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be with them. Yeah. It was like as close as I could get to being with him, was to be with them.
So you are in the fog of suffering the greatest loss of your life, and the world does not stop. And you have relocated. You have, really, and you have a new baby.
Right.
How did you take the next step?
I think you just, when you have, and you know this well, when you have 3 little ones looking at you for their every need, like you really can't say, okay, I'm just going to stay in the bed today. I never had that. I never could just pull the covers up and say, okay, I'm just going to take to the bed, as they say.
Right.
I had to get up each day. And I think that was actually a blessing, even though it was so hard. I think just it helped me to remember, okay, His grace is sufficient. He's going to get you through the day. Just get up and take the next step. And He's going to get you through the day. And He did every day. And I had so much support, not just from, my parents. I literally depended on them for everything. But I had, Jason's parents, and I had Jason's brother and his wife, and my brother, even though they lived in Oxford, they were sacrificing their life to come and help me. I just had an army, and then not just the family, but just this whole community rallied around us in a way that I will never be able to repay or thank them for the way. People would call and say, hey, we just want to come get John Brent and Annalie and take them to do something fun, like things that, like, I didn't, just keep their life going and doing fun things. And, and it was just God's people literally just were carrying us each day, truly.
And I think one of the things my mom had said was, you don't even know what to ask for.
Right.
And so the people who showed up and basically were like, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
How
people
grateful.
Were, like the meals, I don't think we prepared a meal for a year. People were just constantly bringing food, delivering paper towels, and just, hey, I'm picking up this, I'm going to drop this off at your house. Just the way it was such a beautiful picture to me of the body of Christ.
Absolutely.
Of the way the body of Christ works, when you can't do, someone else can.
And I think it's interesting to see I deal with so many people and different problems, and there are themes I think will develop that don't, and themes that develop in these stories, which is how important your community is.
Oh, right.
Just to have one, and to have the people who will step in when you can't.
Absolutely.
And you cannot do this in isolation.
No, I don't know how people, even in Naples, we'd only lived there 2.5 years when he got sick, but we got involved in a church there in Naples, and we were in a small group. And even those people who we didn't have connections. Like Jason grew up in this community. He was born here. His parents, I moved in as a high school student, but these were people that didn't know us. They didn't have history with us, if you will. But when this happened, they were caring for us when we had to go down and pack up our place down there. They met us down there. They loaded the whole truck, these people there.
Right.
You have community.
And
is
they
so
didn't ask
important.
what you needed.
No, they
just said,
did
get
it.
out of the
Like,
way.
hey, here we go. Like, we're
Right.
loading up your truck. We had someone, just down there, just, help us get our car back here to Mississippi. Just things like that, just thankful that we had community, that we had people that would love us enough to care for us. And they didn't really know us. They just loved us because,
Right.
So
what was the hardest part of being a widow at 30?
Just being a widow, like, because the word itself, always growing up in a church and being a Baptist pastor's daughter, like when I heard widow, I thought,
oh yeah,
80-year-old,
right,
75 maybe, so just that in of itself was almost like, hey, wait, that's not, I'm only, I think I was 32.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not supposed to be a widow.
Right.
So
I'm a young mom.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be. Yeah,
just got married.
But also, I think like my identity of I was a wife. Obviously, I was a mother, but I was a wife, and all of a sudden, I don't have him.
Mm-hmm.
And like our friends, were couples, and so it was like they were all great, and so still included me in all the things, but I still felt like, okay, I'm the odd man out,
That's so interesting that you felt that decades after my mom, because one of the things she, in 83, everything was couples.
Right.
And she just kind of quit going to things because people went as couples, and she did
felt
feel
so
different.
Left out.
But that's interesting. Like decades later, you felt the same way.
Yeah, I felt just something missing. Like, and then I had to go back to work. Somebody had to, Jason was not here, and so that was a big adjustment because I had been at home caring for, the children, and so that reality of, okay, you got to do something.
It's another identity shift.
Right. So I've got to, get ready to, and can I even go work every day and deal with the emotions and of what I'm dealing with? And then my mom was going to help with the kids. She retired. She was a school teacher, so she went ahead and retired early so that she could help me with the kids. And so anyway, it was just a lot of, what am I going to do? Who's going to hire me? So thankfully I went back I was a teacher as well, but I wasn't sure I could take on a classroom at the time, with the responsibilities of taking care of 24 other children or 25,
right.
So I did go back to a school, but I didn't go back in the classroom. I went back in an office setting at Oak Grove Primary, actually, is where I went back to work for the first time. And it was such a blessing. At the time, I thought, this is awful. I can't do this, before. But then once I got back in the grind of going to work, those people also became just the people that cared for me and walked me through the next few years of my life. So it was a gift, truly. They hired me, and honestly, I think at the time wasn't sure exactly what I was even going to do, but they just said, okay, come on, we'll find you something. And I first went in one job and then moved to another, but it was a gift, truly a gift, to be supported by those people on a daily basis. So
when you hadn't planned to be a single parent, what was the hardest part of that?
Nights. The nights were the worst. Because the day you're busy, you're moving, you're going, the kids need you. But once they went to bed, which was early because they were so young, I hated the nights. Like into this day, when it starts getting night, I can even start feeling, even though life is great now and different, but I can still feel that when the sun starts to set. I can remember, you just feel so alone. Mm-hmm. You just feel So that was probably the worst time for me, was just 8:30 to, I would just pray, God, please bring the sun back up. Like, I need light. I just needed the light. I felt like I know it's a picture of, he is light, but I needed, darkness was not my friend, truly.
And I think the busyness sustains
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
And then you're alone with your thoughts.
Right. And I thought, this is what it's going to be like the rest of my life. Like, I can't do this. I was grateful that too. I also had a lot of friends that knew that about me. And so, I had people that would come sit with me, like, until they were just like, okay, I got to go to bed. I love you.
Let me tuck you in.
You need to go to sleep as well. And my brother-in-law and sister-in-law lived right across the street. They knew that I didn't, so they would come sit with me. It was just, that was just the hardest part of being a widow at that age. And, but it got better. It did.
Do you think, can you look back on those years now of those truly, literally, and metaphorically dark nights and find any beauty in them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it was during that time the Lord himself became my everything. And I don't say that like cliche. He truly was everything to me. And a lot, like, I think you and I talked about this before. When you're walking through something so hard, the anger that you might feel, I don't know that I was like mad at him, because I would start to like, I can't believe this, and I can't believe I'm walking through this. But at the same time, he was all I had. I couldn't turn my back on the one who was literally sustaining me each day. And so I look back at that time, and I'm so grateful for the suffering, because had I not walked through that, my relationship with the Lord wouldn't look like it does today at all. And it's not that I would ask him for more suffering or please, Lord, let me suffer, but I am so thankful that I saw him in a way during that season of my life that I would probably never have seen him had my life gone a different direction.
And it's just like, I think any other time for parents, you are moving, you're in action from, let's say 6 a.m. to 8, 9 p.m.
Right.
And at the nighttime, when you can stop and think, for you, that darkness was kind of your wilderness season that other people may have in different periods.
Right.
And so other people have months and years of waiting. And you had it, but you kept busy during most of it. And so that nighttime was really that wilderness season for you.
Right.
But had you not had it, there would have been no quiet for God to meet you in.
And he indeed met me. I mean, just, I keep a prayer journal, and I don't write in it every day. But
well, I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one.
Like
many abandoned prayer journals.
I was discipled by a lady in college she was amazing at that, and I wish I could be better at it. But there were nights that I could write, and there were nights that I couldn't.
Right.
There were nights that I could barely say, Jesus, I need you. But that, I think, what the beauty of that is, or what brought me great comfort, was just the verse in the Bible where it talks about the Holy Spirit himself is groaning to our Father for us on our behalf at that time. During those times where you can't say it, you can't.
Right.
He is interceding for us, and that is a beautiful thing to me that I didn't have to write out all of, but when I do go back and read the things that the Lord was teaching me during that time, it's a gift to see his hand all over it, truly.
I know you mentioned the evening comes, it's dark, and you're lonely. Was there that part of you that felt like, did Stephanie die with Jason? Or am I going to have an abundant life in the future?
Yeah.
And then is it wrong for me to want that?
I think at that time, I just wondered what life was going to be like. Because in my mind, Jason and I started dating as juniors in high school. We planned out our whole life. We, like high school sweethearts do. We planned names of our children, and we were going to do this and we were going to do that. And then all of that was no more. So I think during that season, I was like, okay, none of this has gone the way I thought that it was going to go. So what is my life? What are my kids' lives going to look like? And I'll be honest, one of the biggest things I dealt with was fear of really less of what my life was going to be, but what is their life going to be like? And, because I was a single parent, just all the statistics of, what children who are raised in a single home, how they turn out. I was just very fearful of, is this what's going to happen to them? Is their path already doomed before they've even really got started? And I think now, because I'm 18 years out of it, I look back and think, oh, ye of little faith,
I've said that to myself so many times.
Why did you ever doubt that he was not writing a beautiful story for them, And I think this year, Allie, the baby, she graduated from high school. And during this whole season of leading up to graduation, I just wept tears of joy. I mean, obviously, I'm sad that she's growing up and leaving us and moving off to college, but at the same time, my tears were just, thank you, God, because, when she was 5 months old and her dad died, I thought, okay, well, she'll amount to nothing one day, because of the loss of her sweet dad. And yet she has, all three of them, I just thank the Lord for how he has not only sustained me, but he has sustained them and provided for them in ways that I couldn't have ever even dreamed about, like I couldn't. I think I imagined more bad things for them, and he was going, wait, I've got wonderful things for them.
Yeah. At what point after Jason's death were you able to even consider dating again?
I knew, at first I couldn't. I have a funny story. When I went back to work, the very first day, which was 6 months after Jason died, I went back to work. And so he died in July. I went back to work in January. And my very first day, I get to Oak Grove Primary, and the assistant principal at the time, you know her well, Angela McCarty was the assistant principal. She's a dear friend of mine and has been for years. I taught her younger two kids preschool years ago. But anyway, she came up to me, and in only ways that Angela could say, she was trying to be very helpful to me at the time, but she said, hey, I know you're not ready. 6 months. But my sister-in-law has somebody she wants you to meet when you are ready. And I was like, I just fell apart. Are you kidding me? It's one, my first day back to work. And two, you're talking to me about meeting someone. Like, that is the first, nothing could have, I was nowhere near that ready. But I remember that, because I was thinking, I can't believe she just said that to me.
Right.
And we laugh about it now but at the time I was like, oh my gosh. So it was probably 2 years from that moment.
But in some way, did that conversation give you permission later? Because it was like, I think, I'm going to assume later, you worry about the judgment. And it's like, you kind of looking back, you realize that 6 months later, to a lot of people, that would have been okay.
Right.
You weren't ready.
No, I wasn't.
But it was.
And I think in some ways it was like, well, other people think so, maybe it is okay.
Right.
But it was probably a good, I just have, at night, when I had all this time of thinking and processing and grieving, I would think, I don't want to be like this forever. I don't want to be, alone. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And
I can't stay in grief forever.
Right. But I'm wired to be connected That's just the way God made me. And so I knew, okay, if he called me to this season of being a widow, he was going to equip me for that. I knew that. But I hoped, I can remember my thoughts shifting at some point over 2 years or so, thinking, if he's called me to this, I know I can do it because he's going to give me the strength to do it. But I hope that there is something, there is someone.
And that this season is equipping me for whatever the next one is.
Right. Because I didn't think I wanted to be alone like this. I didn't think, I knew I didn't want to be alone. I just didn't know how it was going to work and what would other people think. But, you know, you're in small town Mississippi, and I was just afraid of people thinking, how dare her, you know, like she's only 2 years out or 3 years out or
You're
whatever.
supposed to wear black forever.
Right. I mean, I can remember even being like having fun times, you know, somewhere, and people, and thinking, oh, are people looking at her going, wait, why isn't she crying, you know? But
she can't laugh.
Yeah.
She can't find
She's not
joy.
supposed to find joy. But and no one was sick.
Right.
That's just what our minds, I think that's just the enemy wants you to think that, you know. So, but no, I knew I did not want to be, I think that's how it shifted in my mind, that I just felt like, okay, Lord, I don't think I want to be by myself forever.
And I think that comes too from a place of knowing who you are, that you are a relationship person, but also that you were rooted in Christ. You were not, this is who I am or who I want to be. Leave me alone, God. This is what I want to do. But it was like you were utilizing that every moment to nurture whatever God was giving you in that season, to let it do its job and work on you, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it sounds like as hard as it was, you leaned into it.
I think that was just the only thing I knew to do was, okay, I'm just going to trust that he is going to equip me for whatever's next.
Had you ever had to have your faith tested like that?
Never. My life was, I mean, the hardest thing I had dealt with in my lifetime up until that point was we did move to Hattiesburg as the middle of my junior year in high school. And that was tough, you know, leaving. I grew up in Macomb and we came here. But even then, you know, I had people preparing the way for me. Right. You know, I was coming to you know, my dad was going to be on staff at Temple. So many people were trying to help me get acquainted and get, you know, involved in the community. And then when Jason and I left Hattiesburg for him to go to nurse anesthesia school in Naples, that was tough. Right. Going 13 hours away. But other than that, never had my faith been tested. And here again, I just think I'm so, like, I would never write the story that he has written. Right. I wouldn't have had the faith to write this. I wouldn't have had the strength to say, oh, how about that? But I'm so grateful for my story because it just has totally changed my relationship with the Lord and just given me a walk with him that is truly the greatest gift in my life.
And if we remember that we are here for refinement,
right,
and for God's glory,
right,
then you're allowing it all to have its purpose.
Right.
So how did you get to the point of saying, I think I'm ready to open my heart again?
So a friend of mine that I worked with at the time, she and I were just laughing one day about, possibly you dating again, and who's going to date a girl with 3 kids, and, just those kind of like conversations. And this is how God works, though. The person that, Angela McCarty, my friend that said that day, is the person that was the neighbor to my coworker, and who she was like, oh, how about we put these two together? I mean, it was that was 2.5 years ago that conversation took place. Hey, when you're ready, I have someone I want you to meet. And then 2.5 years later, Debbie Hall and I were in the office at the school talking, and she said, my neighbor is single and never been married, and moved to Hattiesburg about 2 years before that. So he had been in Hattiesburg about 2 years. She was like, I would love...
Like right at the time when it was originally mentioned to you.
Right. And she was like, I would love for y'all to meet. And I remember thinking, and at the time, I wanted to be careful even my response because I didn't want to look too eager. Because here again, I was worried, like, what will that look like?
Right.
Is she just, So I sat on it. We didn't really, nothing really came of it. She began a conversation with him, and I didn't realize until later. And then he and I became friends on Facebook, which isn't that funny. Facebook was just kind of at that time becoming a big thing. I mean, 6 months, or no, it's been around, but because I got on Facebook shortly after Jason died. So it'd been around. But anyway, he and I became friends on Facebook and started communicating via Messenger. And then he asked for my number and asked if he could call me. And I said, sure, and it was so bizarre to be 36 at the time, and have 3 kids and going through all of that. It was just really strange. It's a very strange place.
A juxtaposition between like the little girl in you who might be excited about a date, and then the mom who's exhausted from taking care of 3 kids all day.
And so when he asked me if he could call, he said, what's a good time? And I'm like, well... after 8:30, and because you can't have a conversation when there's 3 children, and I didn't want to let them know about it. I was going to,
the kids.
Yes. I wanted to be cautious because, I didn't know how that would make them feel. And I knew I wanted to be respectful of Jason and the loss that they had experienced. It was just a lot of like, sure. How do you balance all of this?
And the truth is you couldn't. I mean, you couldn't have.
Right.
There's no right answer.
There was no manual,
You pray about it?
I did a lot. And I kept saying to the Lord, okay, if this is not what you want from me, just shut the door. Because I'm not so sure that I'm wise enough right now that I would recognize it.
Right.
And because I was in a space of, I just wanted company. Yeah. I was afraid that I would be settling.
I don't trust my own emotions right now.
I didn't. And so I was like, Lord, if this isn't meant to be, just shut the door.
Yeah.
Just make it so obvious that I know. And so we met. We talked on the phone for about an hour the first time he called me, and it was very easy. Conversation was so easy.
Did you feel guilty?
I did, 100%. And I remember hanging up the phone that first night thinking, did I just cheat on my husband?
I was wondering if that went through your head.
Did I just cheat on my husband? And I had many conversations with friends about that. And, Jason, I think I mentioned this earlier, but we never really we had the one conversation about, what if I don't make it? Are you going to be okay? Yes, I'm going to be okay. But we never had the conversation, if I don't make it, I want you to find another.
Yeah. You didn't get your permission.
No. And the funny thing about that, I think God, he's so wise. After us not having that conversation, shortly after John and I started dating, I ran into a friend of mine that I went to Oak Grove with, and she said, she's like, I wanted to call you several months ago. She said, but I thought maybe I'm not supposed to tell her this. And she said, so the fact that I'm running to you at Target, I feel like this is the Lord, like me saying, I need to tell you. And she said, I had this dream. And she said, Jason was in the dream. And she said, this may be strange, and I'm sorry if it is. And she said, but I want you to know that Jason said, I want her to marry again. If you see her, would you tell her that? And I was like, Oh, I mean, I just like lost it in Target. And I'm still to this day, I'm like, are you sure? Yeah. I mean, I didn't even see this friend often. I mean, it was just thank you, God, because I needed that at that moment just to go, okay. I don't know if that was the Lord really, I don't know. I just know at that moment, I was like, okay, Lord, okay.
Yeah.
Of course, we weren't even at that time. John and I just began to date. So it wasn't like we were literally about to get married, but it was just kind of like, okay, this is going to be okay. You're going to be okay. It's okay that you're doing what you're doing.
You're not doing anything wrong.
You're not doing anything wrong. You're not cheating on Jason, even though it felt like that for a while, really. But that was just a neat story of.
And he was totally, I know this guy comes in and he allowed you to leave that space for Jason.
Yes.
In your heart.
Right. For sure. And that was, tricky, I'm sure, for him, but he always, until this day, he honors Jason. Because I think he, I think when he shared with me, Annalie was doing a dance recital and he came to watch her, and he told me later, or he actually had to come to the dress rehearsal because he couldn't come to the actual recital that night because of a scheduling conflict. And later he told me, he said, the whole time I'm sitting there watching her dance, he said, I just was just overwhelmed that God was allowing me to be in the place that her dad should have been. And I think that I just think that's a gift that he recognizes that the Lord has allowed him this role, even though he didn't birth them, or wasn't their biological father. God had set him apart to be in this role.
Absolutely. And how that love for a child can grow organically.
Right.
Outside of birthing them.
Right. It's a gift.
It is. And it's as much as true as valid as, and still honors the other.
Yes. Yes.
So you get the nerve, you go on a date, and at what point of allowing your heart to consider dating did you let your children know that this is where your heart was?
Yeah, we didn't tell them for several months because I wanted to make sure that this was something God would want for us and not to something Stephanie was trying to create. And then, so we introduced John to Annalie first before John Brent and Allie, because I felt like John Brent was only 3 when Jason died, so his memory of Jason was very little. And then Allie had no memory. She was only 5 months old. So I felt like though Annalie was going to be the one that was going to be most loyal to her dad.
Yes.
And the one that I needed to protect and make sure she was okay with it. That was my concern, was I just wanted to make sure she was okay. And so we introduced Annalie first, just the 2 of them, and we took her to get ice cream, and she was totally fine. The whole transition from, hey, this is a friend of mom's, to, now I want you to know that I am going on a date with my friend, I honestly think she was I know she's said that now, but I think she longed for that too.
She was about 9 at this point.
She was 9, and I think she didn't like the feeling of I don't have a dad, and so I think that for her was like, oh, okay, I can be like my friends if I have a man in the picture,
Yep.
And you know that.
Yep.
And so, so she was the easy. And then John Brent's personality, he's the happiest go lucky, easy. There was never an issue for him. And John was just an instant, like, oh, right, somebody for me to throw the ball to, or, like play, a guy. it's a male reinforcement in the house and not all these hormones that are everywhere. Interestingly enough, Allie was the hardest one to crack for him, and she was only 4, but she kind of had like this standoffishness once we did introduce the two of them. She was just not real sure about him for a while, and he was over at the house one day, and something had broken of hers, and John can fix anything, repair, and he's very gifted in like fixing things, and so he fixed it, and I think she saw, oh wait a minute, okay, in her little 4-year-old mind,
put him to work,
like he can make things better for me. And anyway, she went upstairs after he fixed. I can't even remember what it was. Seems like it was a piece of furniture of hers that was the drawer or something, and she ran upstairs, and we didn't know what she was doing, and she came back down, and she brought him this little ceramic cross that someone had given to her when she was born, a baby gift, and it said, "For this child I have prayed." And she handed it to him, and she said, "I want you to have this." And he was like, "No, Allie, you don't have to give me anything." And she said, "No, I want you to have it." And so he took it, and to this day, it's in our den on a shelf, because I feel like at that moment, she was just kind of giving her approval of like, okay. I'm 4 years old, but I'm okay with this man. And of course now Allie doesn't have any memories without him. Like, I mean, he's always been in her life, so.
Well, you just spoiled the ending. So then y'all got married.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did. I'm sorry. Yeah, we did. So we dated a year, and we got married after a year of dating, and we've been married now since 2012. So,
but I think, and really, I was kind of ready to jump that part too, because I think it's so cool to see, as a child who grew up without a father, I was John Brent's age, but I know the way boys and girls respond is so differently. But Allie, that moment to me when I heard it was she just chose her father. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, she was proposing to him. She was asking him in, absolutely. And he accepted it.
Absolutely.
And that is the relationship that I've seen him form with, and I don't want to say your children, y'all's children, mm-hmm. because.
Absolutely. They're our children. Yeah.
Yes. And,
absolutely.
And with a total respect for Jason's role in that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've seen, him integrate into this world that was yours and y'all's, and now it's in ours. Right. And he just, what a man.
Yeah, he amazes me in that I think I shared this with you before, but he's so respectful of Jason, and yet, like you said, he just integrated into their life, into our life, like he had always been there, but he hadn't. Right. You know what I mean? Like, right. And so, it's interestingly, they refer to Jason as Jason, like when they talk about him. I understand. Because John is dad now. And at first that was like, it was hard for me to hear them say, when they would refer to Jason, they would say Jason by name. I'm like, no, he's your dad. And he is. Right. He will always be. But at the same time, it was confusing, And
again, you deal with other kids at school.
Right.
You hear it. It's easier. You don't have to explain it to somebody.
Right. And we've never used the word step.
Sure.
Like stepdad, stepchildren, because it was immediate. When John and I married on June 30th, 2012, that night, they said, "Can we call you dad?" And they just always, he became dad and not John anymore, and I think about that a lot. And I think that's just another way of God's goodness to us. And in spite of all the hurt and pain that we all felt at Jason's death, this was just a way God could be so kind to us.
My immediate thought was, and this is probably a horrible analogy, but I'm very good at those, how we all long for a father.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they did.
And John was right there. And they said, "Can we call you dad?" Mm-hmm. And I think of how God is right there
Absolutely. He wants
waiting
us,
on us to say,
he
can we
wants us,
call you
can we
Dad?
call you Dad? And he says, absolutely.
I've been waiting.
I've been waiting. And so, it was just, like I said, just a gift he has been to us. And, I will forever be thanking the Lord for the gift of John Johnson in our life, because that's just what he is. He's a gift, not only to me to have someone to share this life with, but then for him to take on, we laugh and say, John could have retired 10 years ago had he not decided to marry me and 3 children and take on 3 children, and that's not, not many men are like, oh, can I sign up for that job?
So graciously.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, if you know this part, my mom, when I first met John, she was very kind of, just being a mom, like, well, tell me about this dude, like, why is he never married? He's
right.
41, he's successful businessman, but why is he never married? She just kept thinking there's got to be some skeletons somewhere in the closet that we just don't know. And my dad and she were having a conversation about that one night, and I think she was just expressing her, fears of me dating John. And he said, Nancy, have you ever thought perhaps God was just saving John for Stephanie for this time, and had he married, then obviously that would not have ever worked out. And that's exactly what, God had done. John dated. It wasn't that he just said he never met anyone. And so that he was interested in enough, that he would want to marry. So his career became his focus. And that's really all he did until we came into his life. And then life changed for him, but for the better. I tell him all the time, for the better. You'd be a mean old man.
She's the grumpy old neighbor.
Right.
Get off my lawn.
That's right.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that what you can have with someone or how much you can love doesn't take away from the other. They're both true.
Right. Absolutely.
They're not either or.
They're not either or. 2 things can be true at one time. For sure.
So the college Stephanie, if you could go back and tell her, warn her, would you warn her?
I think I would say he can be trusted. Whatever, if I could sit down with her, I would just say, whatever is about to happen to you, just know the Lord can be trusted in all things, in the good, obviously the bad being the loss of, nothing can prepare you for being a widow at 32 years old. But I think I would say just like that night that I was literally battling between believing Satan and the enemy's lies to, he can be trusted. And he has been more than faithful to me over the last 18 years of my life. More than faithful.
Can you boil down the advice, and that may be it, that you would give to another young, freshly widowed mom?
Just allow people in your life that can carry you. Don't become so withdrawn. And a lot, I don't mean this, but you get so hurt in your hurt that you want to withdraw, but just allow people I think God has created us to want to be a blessing to other people, and so I think for a lot of people, it's hard to allow people in your life to do for you. But when you do that, you rob them of the blessing they get in serving you. And so I think for a new widow, I would just say, let people care for you and walk you through, the season that you're in, whether it means just come sit with you like people would do with me, just so I didn't have to be physically alone, or whether it's to mow your lawn or to pick up your groceries, or, bring a meal, let people, because people want so badly. They feel so helpless, with a young widow.
Right.
And
they want to do something.
They want to do something. And so I guess my advice would be let them come in and minister to you. And it will truly be it was such a beautiful thing for me to see. And now I don't think I'm an expert at all in helping people. But I think the Lord allows us to walk through seasons of hurt and grief so that we can in turn help other people when they're going through similar situations. So one day, that's what I kept praying, Lord, just don't let this pain that I'm feeling, don't let this be in vain. Help me one day use this in someone else's life, this hurt that I'm feeling. So
thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you for sharing everything.
I mean, I could say so much. God's been so good. I could say so much, but I'm so grateful for his goodness in my life and his faithfulness over the last 18 years.
I think that, your willingness to share, there are so many people who just don't know who to ask. I remember when when I was younger and people would say, do you think your mom would mind if I asked her?
Oh, yeah.
And my mom would say, of course not.
Please, right.
So it can be very isolating. And I think your willingness to tell people just opens that door for more conversations.
And I think for me, when I was I just wanted to see somebody that had walked where I was walking and know they were okay.
Show me that I can get to the other side.
Yes, like I just need.
Give me someone to follow.
If I can just see, Brenda Strider, I don't know if you know Brenda, she lost her husband when she was in her early 20s. They had not had any children in a tragic car accident. And Brenda she has since remarried and had children, but I used to babysit for her kids. And so right after Jason died, I just wanted to hear from Brenda Strider because I knew she knew what I was feeling. And I knew Brenda was on a totally different.
Yep. She'd survived.
She survived. And so I would just talk to her and she would say, hang on, my friend, brighter days are coming. And I would say, tell me again. Tell me again. And she would say, hang on, my friend, brighter days are coming. And I mean, it's so true, that you just want to see somebody that's been where you've been and know that, hey, I can do it because they did it,
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you to our sponsor, Porter Law Group, for supporting these conversations. When family is on the line, experience matters. Porter Law Group specializes in custody and family law with compassion at every step. Visit porterlaw.ms now to schedule your consultation to protect what matters most.